Hello YouTube. So in this video I'm going to run through what a week of lower back pain rehab looks like at FCR and why that's a little bit different from your typical rehab or physio, and some benefits you can get from that. So share my screen now. If we have a quick look through, this is just a random bit of early stage rehab working with a client. So let's go through, I'll just pull myself over there. Let's go through day one. So essentially we've got some cool stuff to start with. Me myself again, just in the way there. So we've got some cool stuff to start with. Some dead bug holds, some glute bridging, nothing too crazy. Then we've got a bit more cool stuff. So this is kind of mobility to warm up. Then we have some hip stuff. Then we have what 99% of coaches and physios that I've seen miss out, some form of loading the back. Again, we're not jumping straight to a back squat or a deadlift, which is something potentially you might be getting pain with. We're starting off with a Zercher box squat. This is a really nice way to start loading the lower back with a variation that you can do with pretty much minimal pain. So it says 70% of 1 rep max. I would test this in the first week when someone gets on board. So this is the second week. They've obviously tested what their 1 rep max is with the Zercher box squat with no pain. And obviously we've got something to work off. So then it's 5x5 at 70% of that. And then to finish off, I've got a really, really simple med ball circuit, which again is something that a lot of people miss out. The goal of this is not to put a huge amount of power down. As you can see, 25 to 50% of max power. It's just to get the hips and back to relax and explore some different movement patterns with some rotation, with some throwing. Really, really simple. So that's session one. Usually that takes people about 35 to 45 minutes to do, something in that range, a little bit longer, depending on how long you rest. So that would be kind of like your heavier day, if you like. Again, this is very early stage rehab, so nothing too crazy yet. Then day two, we've just got some breathing and mobility. So here we've got some breathing and reaching in supine, all loaded ribcage stuff. So learning to open and close the ribcage, essentially some pelvic tilt. So nothing again too crazy there, your typical stuff. Then we've got some more stuff that I think a lot of people miss out. So we have some GHD hip extensions and some hip extension holds. So just some accessories that a lot of the time I don't see in lower back rehab. And then we've got a few more bits here. We've got some hamstring bridges and some Copenhagen raises as well. Some cool stuff and some hamstring stuff. But with the cool stuff, it's not just holds. We're actually moving, we're actually side flexing, we're actually using the obliques. And again, I don't see a lot of hamstring stuff in a lot of lower back rehab. So that's kind of how the structure would be. Heavy day, recovery day, and then we've got another heavy day, which is a kind of variation of cool stuff again to warm up. So some planks, some side planks, Superman, X connect, cross connect. That's a little bit of a typo there. Half-kneeling reaches, more hip stuff, some mobility with a 90-90 knee rolls, and then we've got some loading again. So staggered stance, RDL. Again, we would have tested that in the first week getting on board, and then found a 1 rep max pain-free, and then this is just 70% of that. You'll notice with the Zercher box squat, so over here, with the Zercher box squat and with the RDL, they're not huge ranges of motion. So we're starting nice and conservative. Over time with the Zercher box squat, we can decrease the height of the box to increase the range on that. And then same thing with the staggered stance RDL. We can start with this variation and work all the way down to a classic deadlift, or clean or snatch over time to gradually expose the lower back to greater and greater range and greater load. Okay, so we're not jumping straight to doing what you're getting pain with initially. We're starting nice and slow and then building up. After that, we've got another med ball circuit, which is a slight variation of the first one. Again, the aim here is not max power, it's just to get the hips and backs to relax again. Almost not thinking about the movement, just getting some nice rotation at the spine and chilling out, okay? Then we've got a variation of the first lighter day and recovery day, so some breathing again, really, really important. Crawling cat-cow, which is a nice one to open up the spine. Some more accessories, so some bottom-up kettlebell press and some dual dumbbell overhead holds. Again, this is really specific to the client that I was working with, so it's not necessarily these exercises, but again, just stuff that people aren't doing. You need to be loading stuff early on in rehab heavier than you think in most cases, especially with this person who's quite a high level weightlifter, and we need to load things in certain positions, obviously, that he could do pain-free, but again, it wasn't just him doing some really basic core exercises 2 or 3 times a week. It's a really detailed and structured program with some loading involved, okay? And then to finish off, we just had some more accessories, so some Z press and some Turkish get-ups. So if we look at that first week overall, it's not hours and hours of rehab, but at the same time, it's not the same 3 exercises you're doing every day and just hoping you're getting better. It's actually based off some testing in the first week with the Zercher box squat, stagger stance RDL, and all the other stuff. All the other stuff is based off testing and what he's weak at, what he needs to improve at, and then we put this into a really structured and concise program. So total rehab time for the week, probably, so these longer sessions are taking, let's say 45 minutes, so just under, so that's an hour and a half. So you're looking about 2.5 hours of rehab. Again, not loads, but when it's structured, when it's concise, when you're focusing on what the issue actually is, it works really, really well. So that'll be week 1. Progressing on, week 2 would be exactly the same. The only difference is the percentages on the strength stuff would change. So 70% up to 75% on week 2, and then the percentages on the med ball stuff as well would change. So just putting a little bit more power down with these. So this kind of block of exercises would go on for about 4 weeks. Then we'd retest, we'd assess, and then move on to the next block of exercises. So in this case, the Zercher box squat might go to a box front squat. The staggered stance RDL might go to a block RDL. Gist of it is, over time, we're getting more and more specific to what was causing pain in the first place. So again, if that was a deadlift from the floor, staggered stance RDL, then we might go to a block deadlift, sorry, not block RDL, block deadlift, and then we decrease the height of that block as we progress through rehab, whilst obviously the core stuff is getting more challenging and the med ball stuff is getting more challenging and the accessory stuff is getting harder and more difficult. So as a set system, it progresses over that whole process of rehab, and then at the end of it, we'll test that movement again that they were struggling with, and then they'll be pain-free, they'll be able to move more efficiently, and they can get straight back into training and competing. So in this case, the person I was working with here, this was 4 months of rehab, so a 16-week program, so 4 blocks of 4 weeks, and then at the end of that, he was back to training, competing, lifting, all pain-free. If you found that useful about how lower back rehab is structured at FCR, again, this is just an example. It's not set in stone. Drop a comment down below, subscribe, and if you are interested in online rehab as a CrossFitter, a weightlifter, a powerlifter, or anyone involved in sports, just follow the links down below. Check out my Instagram, and have a look at how we're getting results with clients.